Üdvözlet mindenkinek, és Salom! Valakinek kérdése van, javaslata vagy hozzászólása, megtalál minket ezeken az elérhetőségeken, és egyben lehetősége van mindenkinek arra, hogy amennyiben hasznosnak találja a munkánkat, hozzájáruljon ahhoz. Így még több emberhez el tud jutni az információ, és nem csak egy oldalú lesz ez a folyamat. Köszönet, hála és dicsőség Abba Yahuahnak.
1 Corinthians, 1st chapter. Shaul called to be a shalach of Mashiach Yahusha by the will of Elohim, and our brother Sosthenes, to the ecclesia of Elohim that is in Corinth, to those who are set apart in Mashiach Yahusha, called to be Kodoshim, together with all those who in every place call on the name of our sovereign, Yahusha Mashiach, both their sovereign and ours. Favor to you and peace from Elohim our Father and Yahusha Mashiach. I give thanks to my Elohim always for you because of the favor of Elohim that has been given you in Mashiach Yahusha, for every way you have been enriched in him, in speech and knowledge of every kind, just as the testimony of Mashiach has been strengthened among you, so that you are not lacking in any spiritual gift as you wait for the revealing of our sovereign Yahusha Mashiach. He will also strengthen you to the end, so that you may be blameless on the day of our sovereign Yahusha Mashiach. Elohim is faithful, by him you were called into the fellowship of his Son, Yahusha Mashiach, our sovereign. Now I appeal to you, brothers, by the name of our sovereign Yahusha Mashiach, that all of you be in agreement, and that there be no divisions among you, but that you be united in the same mind and the same purpose. For it has been reported to me by Chloe's people that there are quarrels among you, my brothers. What I mean is that each of you says, I belong to Shaul, or I belong to Apollos, or I belong to Cephas, or I belong to Mashiach. Has Mashiach been divided? Was Shaul crucified for you? Or were you immersed in the name of Shaul? I thank Elohim that I immersed none of you except Crispus and Gaius, so that no one can say that you were immersed in my name. I did immerse also the household of Stephanas. Beyond that, I know not whether I immersed anyone else. For Mashiach did not send me to immerse, but to proclaim the good news, and not with eloquent wisdom, so that the stake of Mashiach might not be emptied of its power. For the message about the stake is foolishness to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved it is the power of Elohim. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the discernment of the discerning I will thwart. Where is the one who is wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the debater of this age? Has not Elohim made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of Elohim the world did not know Elohim through wisdom, Elohim decided through the foolishness of our proclamation to save those who believe. For Yahudim demand signs, and Yavanim desire wisdom, but we proclaim Mashiach crucified, a stumbling block to Yahudim, and foolishness to Gentiles. But to those who are called, both Yahudim and Yavanim, Mashiach, the power of Elohim and the wisdom of Elohim. For Elohim's foolishness is wiser than human wisdom, and Elohim's weakness is stronger than human strength. Consider your own call, brethren. Not many of you were wise by human standards. Not many were powerful. Not many were of noble birth. But Elohim chose what is foolish in the world to shame the wise. Elohim chose what is weak in the world to shame the strong. Elohim chose what is low and despised in the world, things that are not, to reduce to nothing things that are, so that no one might boast in the presence of Elohim. He is the source of your life in Mashiach Yahusha, who became for us wisdom from Elohim, and righteousness, and set-apartness, and redemption, in order that, as it is written, let the one who boasts, boast in the Sovereign. 1 Corinthians, 2nd chapter. When I came to you, brethren, I did not come proclaiming the mystery of Elohim to you in lofty words of wisdom, for I decided to know nothing among you except Mashiach Yahusha and Him crucified. And I came to you in weakness, and in fear, and in much trembling. My speech and my proclamation were not with plausible words of wisdom, but with a demonstration of the Ruach and of power, so that your faith might rest not on human wisdom, but on the power of Elohim. Yet among the mature we do speak wisdom, though it is not the wisdom of this age, or of the rulers of this age, who are doomed to perish, but we speak Elohim's wisdom, secret and hidden, which Elohim decreed before the ages for our esteem. None of the rulers of this age understood this, for if they had, they would not have crucified the Sovereign of esteem. But as it is written, what no eye has seen, nor ear heard, nor the human heart conceived, what Elohim has prepared for those who love Him. These things Elohim has revealed to us through the Ruach, for the Ruach searches everything, even the depths of Elohim. For what human being knows what is truly human except the human Ruach that is within? So also no one comprehends what is truly Elohim's except the Ruach of Elohim. Now we have received not the Ruach of the world, but the Ruach that is from Elohim, so that we may understand the gifts bestowed on us by Elohim. And we speak of these things in words not taught by human wisdom, but taught by the Ruach, interpreting spiritual things to those who are spiritual. Those who are unspiritual do not receive the gifts of Elohim's Ruach, for they are foolishness to them, and they are unable to understand them because they are spiritually discerned. Those who are spiritual discern all things, and they are themselves subject to no one else's scrutiny. For who has known the mind of Yahuah so as to instruct him? But we have the mind of Mashiach. 1 Corinthians, 3rd chapter. And so, brethren, I could not speak to you as spiritual people, but rather as people of the flesh, as infants in Mashiach. I fed you with milk, not solid food, for you were not ready for solid food. Even now you are still not ready, for you are still of the flesh. For as long as there is jealousy and quarreling among you, are you not of the flesh, and behaving according to human inclinations? For when one says, I belong to Shaul, and another, I belong to Apollos, are you not merely human? What then is Apollos? What is Shaul? Servants through whom you came to believe. as Yahuah assigned to each. I planted, Apollos watered, but Elohim gave the growth. So neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but only Elohim who gives the growth. The one who plants and the one who waters have a common purpose, and each will receive wages according to the labor of each. For we are Elohim's servants, working together. You are Elohim's field, Elohim's building. According to the favor of Elohim given to me, like a skilled master builder, I laid a foundation, and someone else is building on it. Each builder must choose with care how to build on it, for no one can lay any foundation other than the one that has been laid. That foundation is Yahushua Mashiach. Now if anyone builds on the foundation with gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, straw, the work of each builder will become visible, for the day will disclose it, because it will be revealed with fire, and the fire will test what sort of work each has done. If what has been built on the foundation survives, the builder will receive a reward. If the work is burnt up, the builder will suffer loss. The builder will be saved, but only as through fire. Do you not know that you are Elohim's building, and that Elohim's Ruach dwells in you? If anyone destroys Elohim's building, Elohim will destroy that person, for Elohim's building is Kodesh, and you are that building. Do not deceive yourselves. If you think that you are wise in this age, you should become fools, so that you may become wise. For the wisdom of this world is foolishness with Elohim, for it is written, He catches the wise in their craftiness. And again, Yahuah knows the thoughts of the wise, that they are futile. So let no one boast about human leaders, for all things are yours, whether Shaul, or Apollos, or Kepha, or the world, or life, or death, or the present, or the future, all belong to you, and you belong to Mashiach, and Mashiach belongs to Elohim. 1 Corinthians 4th chapter. Think of us in this way as servants of Mashiach and stewards of Elohim's mysteries. Moreover, it is required of stewards that they be found trustworthy. But with me it is a very small thing that I should be judged by you or by any human court. I do not even judge myself. I am not aware of anything against myself, but I am thereby acquitted. It is the sovereign who judges me. Therefore do not pronounce judgment before the time, before the sovereign comes, who will bring to light the things now hidden in darkness, and will disclose the purposes of the heart. Then each one will receive commendation from Elohim. I have applied all this to Apollos, and myself for your benefit, brethren, so that you may learn through us the meaning of the saying, nothing beyond what is written, so that none of you will be puffed up in favor of one against another. For who sees anything different in you? What do you have that you did not receive? And if you received it, why do you boast as if it were not a gift? Already you have all you want. Already you have become rich. Quite apart from us, you have become kings. Indeed, I wish that you had become kings, so that we might be kings with you. For I think that Elohim has exhibited us Shalachim as last of all, as though sentenced to death, because we have become a spectacle to the world, to Malachim, to mortals. We are fools for the sake of Mashiach, but you are wise in Mashiach. We are weak, but you are strong. You are held in honor, but we in disrepute. To the present hour we are hungry and thirsty, we are poorly clothed and beaten and homeless, and we grow weary from the work of our hands. When reviled we bless, when persecuted we endure, when slandered we speak kindly. We have become like the rubbish of the world, the dregs of all things, to this very day. I am not writing this to make you ashamed, but to admonish you as my beloved children. For though you might have 10,000 guardians in Mashiach, you do not have many fathers. Indeed, in Mashiach Yahusha, I became your father through the good news. I appeal to you then, be imitators of me. For this reason I sent you Timothy, who is my beloved and faithful child in the Sovereign, to remind you of my ways in Mashiach Yahusha, as I teach them everywhere in every church. But some of you, thinking that I am not coming to you, have become arrogant. But I will come to you soon, if the Sovereign wills, and I will find out not the talk of these arrogant people, but their power. For the kingdom of Elohim depends not on talk, but on power. What would you prefer? Am I to come to you with a stick, or with love in the ruach of gentleness? 1 Corinthians 5th chapter. It is actually reported that there is sexual immorality among you, and of a kind that is not found even among pagans, for a man is living with his father's wife, and you are arrogant. Should you not rather have mourned, so that he who has done this would have been removed from among you? For though absent in body, I am present in ruach, and as if present, I have already pronounced judgment in the name of the Sovereign Yahusha on the man who has done such a thing. When you are assembled, and my ruach is present with the power of our Sovereign Yahusha, you are to hand this man over to Satan for the destruction of the flesh, so that his ruach may be saved in the day of the Sovereign. Your boasting is not a good thing. Do you not know that a little yeast leavens the whole batch of dough? Clean out the old yeast so that you may be a new batch, as you really are unleavened. For our partial lamb, Mashiach, has been sacrificed. Therefore let us celebrate the festival, not with the old yeast, the yeast of malice and evil, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. I wrote to you in my letter not to associate with sexually immoral persons, not at all meaning the immoral of this world, or the greedy and robbers, or idolaters, since you would then need to go out of the world. But now I am writing to you not to associate with anyone who bears the name of brothering, who is sexually immoral, or greedy, or is an idolater, reviler, drunkard, or robber. Do not even eat with such a one, for what have I to do with judging those outside? Is it not those who are inside that you are to judge? Elohim will judge those outside. Drive out the wicked person from among you. 1 Corinthians 6th chapter. When any of you has a grievance against another, Do you dare to take it to court before the unrighteous, instead of taking him before the set-apart ones? Do you not know that the Kedushim will judge the world? And if the world is to be judged by you, are you incompetent to try trivial cases? Do you not know that we are to judge Malachim, to say nothing of ordinary matters? If you have ordinary cases, then do you appoint as judges those who have no standing in the ecclesia? I say this to your shame. Can it be that there is no one among you wise enough to decide between one believer and another, but the believer goes to court against a believer and before unbelievers at that? In fact, to have lawsuits at all with one another is already a defeat for you. Why not rather be wronged? Why not rather be defrauded? But you yourselves wrong and defraud, and believers at that. Do you not know that the wrongdoers will not inherit the kingdom of Elohim? Do not be deceived. Fornicators, idolaters, adulterers, male prostitutes, sodomites, thieves, the greedy, drunkards, revilers, robbers, none of these will inherit the kingdom of Elohim. And this is what some of you used to be, but you are now washed. You were set apart. You were justified in the name of the sovereign Yahushua Mashiach and in the Ruach of our Elohim. All things are lawful for me, but not all things are beneficial. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be dominated by anything. Food is meant for the stomach, and the stomach for the food, and Elohim will destroy both one and the other. The body is meant not for fornication, but for the sovereign, and the sovereign for the body. And Elohim raised the sovereign and will also raise us by his power. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Mashiach? Should I therefore take the members of Mashiach and make them members of a prostitute? Never. Do you not know that whoever is united to a prostitute becomes one body with her? For it is said, the two shall be one flesh. But anyone united to the sovereign becomes one ruach with him. Shun fornication. Every sin that a person commits is outside the body, but the fornicator sins against the body itself. Or do you not know that your body is a house of Ruach HaKodesh within you, which you have from Elohim, and that you are not your own? For you were bought with a price. Therefore esteem Elohim in your body. 1 Corinthians 7th chapter. Now concerning the matters about which you wrote, it is well for a man not to touch a woman, but because of cases of sexual immorality, each man should have his own wife and each woman her own husband. The husband should give to his wife her conjugal rights, and likewise the wife to her husband. For the wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. Likewise, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Do not deprive one another, except perhaps by agreement for a set time, to devote yourself to prayer, and then come together again, so that Satan may not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. This I say by way of concession, not of command. I wish that all were as I myself am, but each has a particular gift from Elohim, one having one kind, and another a different kind. To the unmarried and the widows I say that it is well for them to remain unmarried, as I am. But if they are not practicing self-control, they should marry, for it is better to marry than to be aflame with passion. To the married I give this command, not I, but Yahuah, that the wife should not separate from her husband, but if she does separate, let her remain unmarried or else be reconciled to her husband, and that the husband should not divorce his wife. To the rest I say, I, and not Yahuah, that if any believer has a wife who is an unbeliever, and she consents to live with him, he should not divorce her. And if any woman has a husband who is an unbeliever, and he consents to live with her, she should not divorce him. For the unbelieving husband is made Kodesh through his wife, and the unbelieving wife is made Kodesh through her husband. Otherwise your children would be unclean, but as it is, they are Kodesh. But if the unbelieving partners separate, let it be so. In such a case, the brother or sister is not bound. It is to peace that Elohim has called you. Wife, for all you know, you might save your husband. Husband, for all you know, you might save your wife. However that may be, let each of you lead the life that the sovereign has assigned, to which Elohim called you. This is my rule in all the ecclesia. Was anyone at the time of his call already circumcised? Let him not seek to remove the marks of circumcision. Was anyone at the time of his call uncircumcised? Let him not seek circumcision. Circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing, but obeying the commandments of Elohim is everything. Let each of you remain in the condition in which you were called. Were you a slave when called? Do not be concerned about it. Even if you can gain your freedom, make use of your present condition now more than ever. For whoever was called in the sovereign as a slave is a freed person belonging to the sovereign, just as whoever was free when called is a slave of Mashiach. You were bought with a price. Do not become slaves of human masters. In whatever condition you were called, brethren, there remain with Elohim. Now concerning virgins I have no command of the sovereign, but I give my opinion as one who by the sovereign's mercy is trustworthy. I think that in view of the impending crisis, it is well for you to remain as you are. Are you bound to a wife? Do not seek to be free. Are you free from a wife? Do not seek a wife. But if you marry, you do not sin, and if a virgin marries, she does not sin. Yet those who marry will experience distress in this life, and I would spare you that. I mean, brethren, the appointed time has grown short. From now on, let even those who have wives be as though they had none, and those who mourn as though they were not mourning, and those who rejoice as though they were not rejoicing, and those who buy as though they had no possessions, and those who deal with the world as though they had no dealings with it. For the present form of this world is passing away. I want you to be free from anxieties. The unmarried man is anxious about the affairs of the sovereign, how to please the sovereign. But the married man is anxious about the affairs of the world, how to please his wife. And his interests are divided, and the unmarried woman and the virgin are anxious about the affairs of the sovereign, so that they may be Kodesh in body and Ruach. But the married woman is anxious about the affairs of the world, how to please her husband. I say this for your own benefit, not to put any restraint upon you, but to promote good order and unhindered devotion to the sovereign. If anyone thinks that he is not behaving properly toward his virgin, if his passions are strong, and so it has to be, let him marry as he wishes. It is no sin. Let them marry. But if someone stands firm in his resolve, being under no necessity but having his own desire under control, and has determined in his own mind to keep her as his virgin, he will do well. So then he who marries his virgin does well, and he who refrains from marriage will do better. A wife is bound as long as her husband lives, but if the husband dies, she is free to marry anyone she wishes, only in the sovereign. But in my judgment she is more blessed if she remains as she is, and I think that I too have the Ruach of Elohim. 1 Corinthians 8th chapter. Now concerning food sacrificed to idols, we know that all of us possess knowledge. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. Anyone who claims to know something does not yet have the necessary knowledge, but anyone who loves Elohim is known by him. Hence, as to the eating of food offered to idols, we know that no idol in the world really exists, and that there is no Elohim but one. Indeed, even though there may be so-called Elohim in Shemaim or on Aretz, as in fact there are many Elohim and many sovereigns, yet for us there is one Elohim, the Father, from whom are all things and for whom we exist, and one sovereign, Yahushua Mashiach, through whom are all things and through whom we exist. It is not everyone, however, who has this knowledge, since some have become so accustomed to idols until now, they still think of the food they eat as food offered to an idol, and their conscience, being weak, is defiled. Food will not bring us close to Elohim. We are no worse off if we do not eat, and no better off if we do. But take care that this liberty of yours does not somehow become a stumbling block to the weak. For if others see you, who possess knowledge, eating in the house of an idol, might they not, since their conscience is weak, be encouraged to the point of eating food sacrificed to idols? So by your knowledge, those weak believers from whom Mashiach died are destroyed. But when you thus sin against members of your family, and wound their conscience when it is weak, you sin against Mashiach. Therefore, if food is a cause of their falling, I will never eat meat, so that I may not cause one of them to fall. 1 Corinthians 9th chapter. Am I not free? Am I not a shalach? Have not I seen Yahushua our sovereign? Are you not my work in the sovereign? If I am not a shalach to others, at least I am to you, for you are the seal of my apostleship in the sovereign. This is my defense to those who would examine me. Do we not have the right to our food and drink? Do we not have the right to be accompanied by a believing wife, as do the other shalachim and the brothers of the sovereign and Kepha? Or is it only Barnabas and I who have no right to refrain from working for a living? Who at any time pays the expenses for doing military service? Who plants a vineyard does not eat of its fruit? Or who tends a flock and does not get any of its milk? Do I say this on human authority? Does not the Torah also say the same? For it is written in the Torah of Moshe, "You shall not muzzle an ox while it is treading out the grain." Is it for oxen that Elohim is concerned? Or does he not speak entirely for our sake? It was indeed written for our sake, for whoever plows should plow in hope, and whoever threshes should thresh in hope of a share in the crop. If we have sown spiritual good among you, is it too much if we reap your material benefits? If others share this rightful claim on you, do not we still more? Nevertheless, we have not made use of this right, but we endure anything rather than put an obstacle in the way of the good news of Mashiach. Do you not know that those who are employed in the temple service get their food from the house of Yahuah, and those who serve at the altar share in what is sacrificed on the altar? In the same way, the sovereign commanded that those who proclaim the good news should get their living by the good news. But I have made no use of any of these rights, nor am I writing this, so that they may be applied in my case. Indeed, I would rather die than that. No one will deprive me of my ground for boasting. If I proclaim the good news, this gives me no ground for boasting, for an obligation is laid on me. And woe to me if I do not proclaim the good news. For if I do this of my own will, I have a reward. But if not of my own will, I am entrusted with a commission. What then is my reward? Just this, that in my proclamation I may make the good news free of charge, so as not to make full use of my rights in the good news. For though I am free with respect to all, I have made myself a slave to all, so that I might win more of them. To the Yahudim I became as a Yahudi, in order to win Yahudim. To those under the Torah I became as one under the Torah, though I myself am not under the Torah, so that I might win those under the Torah. To those outside the Torah, I became as one outside the Torah, though I am not free from Elohim's Torah, but am under Mashiach's Torah, so that I might win those outside the Torah. To the weak I became weak, so that I might win the weak. I have become all things to all people, that I might by all means save some. I do it all for the sake of the good news, so that I may share in its blessings. Do you not know that in a race the runners all compete, but only one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may win it. Athletes exercise self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable one. So I do not run aimlessly, nor do I box as though beating the air, but I punish my body and enslave it, so that proclaiming to others, I myself should not be disqualified. 1 Corinthians 10th chapter. I do not want you to be unaware, brethren, that our ancestors were all under the cloud, and all passed through the sea, and all were immersed into Moshe in the cloud and in the sea, and all ate the same spiritual food, and all drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that followed them, and the rock was Mashiach. Nevertheless, Elohim was not pleased with most of them, and they were struck down in the wilderness. Now these things occurred as examples for us, so that we might not desire evil as they did. Do not become idolaters, as some of them did. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink, and they rose up to play. We must not indulge in sexual immorality, as some of them did. And 23,000 fell in a single day. We must not put Mashiach to the test, as some of them did, and were destroyed by serpents. And do not complain, as some of them did, and were destroyed by the destroyer. These things happened to them to serve as an example, and they were written down to instruct us, on whom the ends of the ages have come. So if you think you are standing, watch out that you do not fall. No testing has overtaken you that is not common to everyone. Elohim is faithful, and he will not let you to be tested beyond your strength. But with the testing he will also provide the way out, so that you may be able to endure. Therefore, my beloved friends, flee from the worship of idols. I speak as to sensible people. Judge for yourselves what I say. The cup of blessing that we bless, is it not a sharing in the blood of Mashiach? The bread that we break, is it not a sharing of the body of Mashiach? Because there is one bread, we who are many are one body, for we all partake of the one bread. Consider the people of Israel. Are not those who eat the sacrifices partners in the altar? What do I imply then? That food sacrificed to idols is anything? Or that an idol is anything? No, I imply that what pagans sacrifice, they sacrifice to demons and not to Elohim. I do not want you to be partners with demons. You cannot drink the cup of the sovereign and the cup of demons. You cannot partake of the table of the sovereign and the table of demons. Or are we provoking the sovereign to jealousy? Are we stronger than he? All things are lawful, but not all things are beneficial. All things are lawful, but not all things build up. Do not seek your own advantage, but that of the other. Eat whatever is sold in the meat market, without raising any questions on the ground of conscience. For the earth and its fullness are Yahuah's. If an unbeliever invites you to a meal and you are disposed to go, eat whatever is set before you without raising any questions on the ground of conscience. But if someone says to you, "This has been offered in sacrifice," then do not eat it, out of consideration for the one who informed you and for the sake of conscience. I mean the other's conscience, not your own. For why should my liberty be subject to the judgment of someone else's conscience? If I partake with thankfulness, why should I be denounced because of that for which I give thanks? So whether you eat or drink, or whatever you do everything for the esteem of Elohim. Give no offense to Yahudim, or to Yavanim, or to the Ecclesia of Elohim, just as I try to please everyone in everything I do, not seeking my own advantage, but that of many, so that they may be saved. 1 Corinthians 11th chapter. Be imitators of me, as I am of Mashiach. I commend you because you remember me in everything and maintain the traditions just as I handed them to you. But I want you to understand that Mashiach is the head of every man, and the husband is the head of his wife, and Elohim is the head of Mashiach. Any man who prays or prophesies with something on his head, this favors his head. But any woman who prays or prophesies with her head unveiled, this favors her head. It is one and the same thing as having her head shaved. For if a woman will not veil herself, then she should cut off her hair. But if it is disfavored for a woman to have her hair cut off or to be shaved, she should wear well. For a man ought not to have his head veiled, since he is the image and reflection of Elohim, but a woman is the reflection of man. Indeed, man was not made from woman, but woman from man. Neither was man created for the sake of woman, but woman for the sake of man. For this reason, a woman ought to have a symbol of authority on her head, because of the malachim. Nevertheless, in the sovereign, woman is not independent of man, and man independent of woman. For just as woman came from man, so man comes through woman. But all things come from Elohim. Judge for yourselves. Is it proper for a woman to pray to Elohim with her head unveiled? Does not nature itself teach you that if a man wears long hair, it is degrading to him? But if a woman has long hair, it is her esteem, for her hair is given to her for covering. But if anyone is disposed to be contentious, we have no such custom, nor do the ecclesia of Elohim. Now in the following instructions I do not command you, because when you come together it is not for the better but for the worse. For to begin with, when you come together as an ecclesia, I hear that there are divisions among you, and to some extent I believe it. Indeed, there have to be factions among you, for only so will it become clear who among you are genuine. When you come together, it is not really to eat the sovereign's supper. For when the time comes to eat, each of you goes ahead with your own supper, and one goes hungry, and another becomes drunk. What? Do you not have homes to eat and drink in? Or do you show contempt for the ecclesia of Elohim and humiliate those who have nothing? What should I say to you? Should I command you? In this matter I do not command you. For I received from the sovereign what I also handed on to you, that the sovereign Yahushua on the night when he was betrayed took a loaf of bread, and when he had given thanks he broke it and said, "This is my body that is for you. Do this in remembrance of me." In the same way he took the cup also, after supper, saying, "This cup is the new covenant of my blood. Do this as often as you drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as you eat this bread and drink the cup, you proclaim the sovereign's death until he comes. Whoever therefore eats the bread or drinks the cup of the sovereign in an unworthy manner will be answerable for the body and blood of the sovereign. Examine yourselves, and only then eat the bread and drink of the cup. For all who eat and drink without discerning the body, eat and drink judgment against themselves. For this reason many of you are weak and ill, and some have died. But if we judged ourselves, we would not be judged. But when we are judged by the sovereign, we are disciplined so that we may not be condemned along with the world. So then, my brothers and sisters, when you come together to eat, wait for one another. If you are hungry, eat at home, so that when you come together, it will not be for your condemnation. About the other things, I will give instructions when I come. Now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I do not want you to be uninformed. You know that when you were pagans, you were enticed and led astray to idols that could not speak. Therefore I want you to understand that no one speaking by the Ruach of Elohim ever says, "Let Yahushua be cursed," and no one can say Yahushua is sovereign except by the Kodesh Ruach. Now there are varieties of gifts, but the same Ruach, and there are varieties of services, but the same sovereign, and there are varieties of activities, but it is the same Elohim who activates all of them in everyone. To each is given the manifestation of the Ruach for the common good. To one is given through the Ruach the utterance of wisdom, and to another the utterance of knowledge according to the same Ruach. To another faith by the same Ruach. To another gifts of healing by the one Ruach. To another the working of miracles. To another prophecy. To another the discernment of Ruachot. To another various kinds of tongues. To another the interpretation of tongues. All these are activated by one and the same Ruach, who allots to each one individually, just as the Ruach chooses. For just as the body is one and has many members, and all the members of the body, though many, are one body, so it is with Mashiach. For in the one Ruach we were all immersed into one body, Yahudim or Yavanim, slaves or free, and we were all made to drink of one Ruach. Indeed, the body does not consist of one member, but of many. If the foot would say, because I am not a hand, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less a part of the body. And if the ear would say, because I am not an eye, I do not belong to the body, that would not make it any less part of the body. If the whole body were an eye, where would the hearing be? If the whole body were hearing, where would the sense of smell be? But as it is, Elohim arranged the members in the body, each one of them as he chose. If all were a single member, where would the body be? As it is, there are many members, yet one body. The eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you, nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. On the contrary, the members of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable, and those members of the body that we think less honorable we clothe with greater honor, and our less respectable members are treated with greater respect. Whereas our more respectable members do not need this. But Elohim has so arranged the body, giving the greater honor to the inferior member, that there may be no dissension within the body, but the members may have the same care for one another. If one member suffers, all suffer together with it. If one member is honored, all rejoice together with it. Now you are the body of Mashiach and individually members of it. And Elohim has appointed in the Ecclesia first Shalachim, second prophets, third teachers, then deeds of power, then gifts of healing, forms of assistance, forms of leadership, various kinds of tongues. Are all Shalachim? Are all Nabiim? Are all teachers? Do all work miracles? Do all possess gifts of healing? Do all speak in tongues? Do all interpret? But strive for the greater gifts, and I will show you a still more excellent way. 1 Corinthians chapter 13. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of malachim, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers, and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith, so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part, then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love. 1 Corinthians, 14th chapter. Pursue love and strive for the spiritual gifts, and especially that you may prophesy. For those who speak in a tongue do not speak to other people but to Elohim. For nobody understands them, since they are speaking mysteries in the Ruach. On the other hand, those who prophesy speak to other people for their upbuilding and encouragement and consolation. Those who speak in a tongue build up themselves, but those who prophesy build up the ecclesia. Now I would like all of you to speak in tongues, but even more to prophesy. One who prophesies is greater than one who speaks in tongues, unless someone interprets, so that the ecclesia may be built up. Now, brethren, if I come to you speaking in tongues, how will I benefit you unless I speak to you in some revelation or knowledge or prophecy or teaching? It is the same way with lifeless instruments that produce sound, such as the flute or the harp. If they do not give distinct notes, how will anyone know what is being played? And if the bugle gives an indistinct sound, who will get ready for battle? So with yourselves. If in a tongue you utter speech that is not intelligible, how will anyone know what is being said? For you will be speaking into the air. There are doubtless many different kinds of sounds in the world, and nothing is without sound. If then I do not know the meaning of a sound, I will be a foreigner to the speaker, and the speaker a foreigner to me. So with yourselves, since you are eager for spiritual gifts, strive to excel in them for building up the ecclesia. Therefore one who speaks in a tongue should pray for the power to interpret. For if I pray in a tongue, my ruach prays, but my mind is unproductive. What should I do then? I will pray with the ruach, but I will pray with the mind also. I will sing praise with the ruach, but I will sing praise with the mind also. Otherwise, if you say a blessing with the ruach, how can anyone in the position of an outsider say the amen to your thanksgiving, since the outsider does not know what you are saying? For you may give thanks well enough, but the other person is not built up. I thank Elohim that I speak in tongues more than all of you. Nevertheless, in the ecclesia I would rather speak 5 words with my mind in order to instruct others also, than 10,000 words in a tongue. Brethren, do not be children in your thinking, rather be infants in evil, but in thinking be adults. In the law it is written, by people of strange tongues and by lips of foreigners I will speak to this people. Yet even then they will not listen to me, says Yahuah. Tongues then are a sign not for believers, but for unbelievers, while prophecy is not for unbelievers, but for believers. If therefore the whole ecclesia comes together and all speak in tongues and outsiders or unbelievers enter, will they not say that you are out of your mind? But if all of you prophesy, an unbeliever or outsider who enters is reproved by all and called to account by all. After the secrets of the unbeliever's heart are disclosed, that person will bow down before Elohim and worship him, declaring Elohim is really among you. What should be done then, my friends? When you come together, each one has a hymn, a lesson, a revelation, a tongue, or an interpretation. Let all things be done for building up. If anyone speaks in a tongue, let there be only 2 or at most 3, and each in turn, and let one interpret. But if there is no one to interpret, let them be silent in the ecclesia and speak to themselves and to Elohim. Let 2 or 3 prophets speak, and let the others weigh what is said. If a revelation is made to someone else sitting nearby, let the first person be silent. For you can all prophesy one by one, so that all may learn and all be encouraged. And the ruachot of prophets are subject to the prophets. For Elohim is Elohim not of disorder, but of peace. As in all the ecclesia of the Kedoshim, women should be silent in the ecclesia, for they are not permitted to speak, but should be subordinate, as the law also says. If there is anything they desire to know, let them ask their husbands at home. For it is shameful for a woman to speak in the ecclesia. Or did the word of Elohim originate with you? Or are you the only ones it has reached? Anyone who claims to be a prophet or to have spiritual powers must acknowledge that what I am writing to you is a command of the sovereign. Anyone who does not recognize this is not to be recognized. So my friends, be eager to prophesy, and do not forbid speaking in tongues, but all things should be done decently and in order. 1 Corinthians 15th chapter. Now I would remind you, brethren, of the good news that I proclaimed to you, which you in turn received, in which also you stand, through which also you are being saved, if you hold firmly to the message that I proclaimed to you, unless you have come to believe in vain. For I handed unto you as of first importance what I in turn had received, that Mashiach died for our sins in accordance with the Scriptures, and that he was buried, and that he was raised on the 3rd day in accordance with the Scriptures, and that he appeared to Kepha, then to the 12. Then he appeared to more than 500 brothers, at one time most of whom are still alive, though some have died. Then he appeared to Jacob, then to all the Shalachim. Last of all, as to one untimely born, he appeared also to me. For I am the least of the Shalachim, unfit to be called a Shalach, because I persecuted the ecclesia of Elohim. But by the favor of Elohim I am what I am, and his favor toward me has not been in vain. On the contrary, I worked harder than any of them, though it was not I, but the favor of Elohim that is with me. Whether then it was I or they, so we proclaim, and so you have come to believe. Now if Mashiach is proclaimed as raised from the dead, how can some of you say there is no resurrection of the dead? If there is no resurrection of the dead, then Mashiach has not been raised. And if Mashiach has not been raised, then our proclamation has been in vain, and your faith has been in vain. We are even found to be misrepresenting Elohim, because we testified of Elohim that he raised Mashiach, whom he did not raise, if it is true that the dead are not raised. For if the dead are not raised, Mashiach has not been raised. If Mashiach has not been raised, your faith is futile, and you are still in your sins. Then those also who have died in Mashiach have perished. If for this life only we have hoped in Mashiach, we are of all people most to be pitied. But in fact, Mashiach has been raised from the dead, the first fruits of those who have died. For since death came through a human being, the resurrection of the dead has also come through a human being. For as all die in Adam, so all will be made alive in Mashiach, but each in his own order. Mashiach, the first fruit, then at his coming those who belong to Mashiach. Then comes the end, when he hands over the kingdom to Elohim the Father, after he has destroyed every ruler and every authority and power. For he must reign until he has put all his enemies under his feet. The last enemy to be destroyed is death, for Elohim has put all things in subjection under his feet. But when it says, all things are put in subjection, it is plain that this does not include the one who put all things in subjection under him. When all things are subjected to him, then the Son himself will also be subjected to the one who put all things in subjection under him, so that Elohim may be all in all. Otherwise, what will those people do who receive immersion on behalf of the dead? If the dead are not raised at all, why are people immersed on their behalf? And why are we putting ourselves in danger every hour? I die every day. That is as certain, brethren, as my boasting of you, a boast that I make in Mashiach Yahushua our sovereign. If with merely human hopes I fought with wild animals at Ephesus, what would I have gained by it? If the dead are not raised, let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. Do not be deceived. Bad company ruins good morals. Come to a sober and right mind, and sin no more, for some people have no knowledge of Elohim. I say this to your shame. But someone will ask, how are the dead raised? With what kind of body do they come? Fool! What you sow does not come to life unless it dies. And as for what you sow, you do not sow the body that is to be, but a bare seed, perhaps of wheat or of some other grain. But Elohim gives it a body as he has chosen, and to each kind of seed its own body. Not all flesh is alike, but there is one flesh for human beings, and another for animals, another for birds, another for fish. There are both heavenly bodies and earthly bodies, but the esteem of the heavenly is one thing, and that of the earthly is another. There is one esteem of the sun, and another esteem of the moon, another esteem of the stars. Indeed, star differs from star in esteem. So it is with the resurrection of the dead. What is sown is perishable, what is raised is imperishable. It is sown in dishonor, it is raised in esteem. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. It is sown in physical body, it is raised a spiritual body. If there is a physical body, there is also a spiritual body. Thus it is written, the first man, Adam, became a living being. The last Adam became a life-giving Ruach. But it is not the spiritual that is first, but the physical, and then the spiritual. The first man was from the earth, a man of dust. The second man is from heaven. As was the man of dust, so are those who are of the dust. And as is the man of Shamaim, so are those who are of Shamaim. Just as we have borne the image of the man of dust, we will also bear the image of the man of Shamaim. What I am saying, brethren, is this. Flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of Elohim, nor does the perishable inherit the imperishable. Listen, I will tell you a mystery. We will not all die, but we will all be changed, in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we will be changed. For this perishable body must put on imperishability, and this mortal body must put on immortality. When this perishable body puts on imperishability, and this mortal body puts on immortality, then the saying that is written will be fulfilled. Death has been swallowed up in victory. Where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? The sting of death is sin, and the power of sin is the Torah. But thanks to Elohim, who gives us the victory through our sovereign Yahushua Mashiach. Therefore, my beloved, be steadfast, immovable, always excelling in the work of the sovereign, because you know that in the sovereign your labor is not in vain. 1 Corinthians 16th chapter. Now concerning the collection for the Kadushim, you should follow the directions I gave to the Ecclesia of Galatia. On the first day of every week, each of you is to put aside and save whatever extra you earn, so that collections need not be taken when I come. And when I arrive, I will send any whom you approve with letters to take your gift to Yerushalayim. If it seems advisable that I should go also, they will accompany me. I will visit you after passing through Macedonia, for I intend to pass through Macedonia, and perhaps I will stay with you or even spend the winter, so that you may send me on my way wherever I go. I do not want to see you now just in passing, for I hope to spend some time with you, if the Sovereign permits. But I will stay in Ephesus until Pentecost, for a wide door for effective work has opened to me, and there are many adversaries. If Timothy comes, see that he has nothing to fear among you, for he is doing the work of the Sovereign just as I am. Therefore let no one despise him. Send him on his way in peace, so that he may come to me, for I am expecting him with the brothers. Now concerning our brother Apollos, I strongly urge him to visit you with the other brothers, but he was not at all willing to come now. He will come when he has the opportunity. Keep alert, stand firm in your faith, be courageous, be strong. Let all that you do be done in love. Now, brothers, you know that the members of the household of Stephanas were the first converts in Achaia, and they have devoted themselves to the service of the Kadushim. I urge you to put yourselves at the service of such people, and of everyone who works and toils with them. I rejoice at the coming of Stephanas and Fortunatus and Achaius, because they have made up for your absence, for they refreshed my ruach as well as yours. So give recognition to such persons. The Ecclesia of Asia send greetings. Aquila and Prisca, together with the Ecclesia in their house, greet you warmly in the Sovereign. All the brethren send greetings. Greet one another with a Kodesh kiss. I, Shaul, write this greeting with my own hand. Let anyone be accursed who has no love for the Sovereign. Our Sovereign come. The favor of Sovereign Yahushua be with you. My love be with all of you in Mashiach Yahushua.
Valakinek kérdése van, javaslata vagy hozzászólása, megtalál minket ezeken az elérhetőségeken, és egyben lehetősége van mindenkinek arra, hogy amennyiben hasznosnak találja a munkánkat, hozzájáruljon ahhoz. Így még több emberhez el tud jutni az információ, és nem csak egy oldalú lesz ez a folyamat. Köszönet, hála és dicsőség Abba Yahuának, halleluja és salom!